Hi, welcome back to I Confess with Travis. I'm your host, Travis Bartlett. This is episode 11, and today I'm going to be talking to a guy who's got a lot of stories to tell. I actually have him on the other line right now, so let's go ahead and talk to this guy. Alright, so how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing good. So I hear you got a story you want to tell.
Well, I got a few.
Okay.
How much time you got?
Hmm?
How much time do you got?
Whatever. I've got all day.
Well, so my name's Alex McCann.
Okay.
Born and raised in Martinsburg, West Virginia. I don't know if you know where that is.
I've heard of West Virginia.
That's fair. Martinsburg's like the sublet of D.C. Everybody that works in D.C. lives there.
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up, you had a lot of, it's a city, so you had a lot of, normal things going on. But when I became, I don't know if I consider 18 to be an adult, but, when I became 18 and was able to live on my own and stuff like that, I lived on what was called High Street, which is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's exactly where everybody was when they were getting down.
That's true.
So, I lived there, and one of the nights me and my roommate had just moved in to a very nice house. It was I don't even know how to describe it. It was compact, but built tall. So it had a staircase and a thick, wide staircase. And the people that had lived there before were giant fans of Penn State, so everything's, blue and gray, which we didn't care about because that's actually a nice color scheme. We're not going to complain. And we're kids, so we're not going to just all of a sudden decide to paint the walls.
Right.
We're getting the house pretty much as is, and that's how we wanted it. So, my roommate and I were sitting in our living room, playing video games. We both had the day off from work, which was fantastic. We used to work at FedEx, which was, it was okay. It was good pay for being 18, but at the same time, you're working a lot. So
right.
It was a different experience to go from, being at school and sitting down and writing to all of a sudden doing all this manual labor and stuff. So, it was a weird transition for me. So, we were just sitting there playing video games, and all of a sudden we hear a giant explosion. And it shook our house. Things came off our wall. Like, we thought we had just been bombed. I think it was right after Obama had come out and said that they got Osama bin Laden. I think it was just a month or two after that. So when we hear this giant explosion, we're like, oh, the worst has happened. They've decided to hit the worst spot in America. High Street. So we were, freaking out. We run outside, and we smell burning cat piss.
Ew.
Which is, you're around. I'm
right.
sure anybody that has smelled cat pee has been like, please no. My children get this gum that's supposed to be like tropical, and it just smells like straight cat piss to me. Like it's a terrible smell. But luckily, our whole street gets to be filled with it. That and a bunch of smoke, because 2 doors down from my house, a meth lab had exploded.
Oh, wow.
And this is a city street, so it's not like we had some grass in between us. We had an alleyway, that kind of thing. So each house had just an alleyway. So while I wasn't in supreme danger, the neighbor right next to us thankfully wasn't home because a good bit of his house had been demolished in the blast. And so that's one of my stories.
Wow.
There's a you mind if I plug some of my stuff, because that's also part of my stories.
Yeah.
All right. So growing up, I had a really close circle of friends that I picked because I knew that when you I was I'm trying to find a way to say this that doesn't sound braggadocious, because I don't want to be, look at me.
Right.
But I was always kind of a cultural chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
I get along with everybody. I could talk to anybody I wanted to. I was able to. I get along with popular kids. I could get along with non-popular kids.
Right.
But the non-popular kids attracted me most.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, they were into the same things I was in. They weren't worried about,
Mm-hmm.
your kicks, anything like that. They were like, you want to come over, have some pizza and
Right.
And we were like, all right, absolutely. Let me go in here. So, a few things happened with that group that were a lot of fun. And some of them I'm going to say, but I need everyone to know right now, I don't live in Martinsburg. So if you're a cop, you're not going to find me.
Right.
Just got to say that part right now.
Well, see, I'm not a cop, so...
Well, I just mean people listening.
Right.
They happen to live in that area.
Right.
And are 5-0. Don't look for me.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so we had a circle of friends. It was me, a guy named Zachary Brown, my best friend Jordan Smith, my brother Will Mays Jr., and a spattering of others, but those were the four main people that I cared most about being in the group. And we, grew up, and we had this bonding over we were going to get together at Brown's house, eat some pizza, and watch TV, such and such.
Right.
And it was actually Brown's house that I moved into, where the meth lab exploded and all that.
Right.
So the first introduction we get to Brown's home, Brown tells us at school, I broke my computer today, and we have to get back home so I can fix it before my mom wakes up. So after the bell rings, none of us wait for anybody. Brown leaves, and we all go because we've got a mission.
Right.
We've got to eat pizza while he tries to fix his computer.
Right.
So the way Brown describes breaking his computer was that he was trying to watch. Okay, we were illegally copying movies to other discs. Like that's just how it was. Brown had the hookup, and we all wanted movies.
Right.
So
I used to do that. When I was a teenager.
Yeah, I mean that's classic. You find the hookup, that's your buddy.
Right.
So, and Brown was a good dude, so we didn't care, and became quite a good friendship. But we go into his house. He was trying to make a copy of a movie, but the disc tray kept popping open and then shutting again, and then opening, and then it just wouldn't close. So he screamed out, "Close," and punched the bitch.
Ooh.
Breaking the disc tray. So he has our buddy Mike Connolly come over with us, and none of us have hung out. I think maybe Jordan have hung out with Mike, and Will had, but I hadn't met him. And so we're over there. Brown's taking apart the computer, and Mike is helping him because they're both very tech savvy, that kind of thing.
Right.
Mike could build his own computer and have it working to like Alienware quality. He's very, very tech savvy. Even back in high school, he was just amazing with it.
Right.
So
okay,
we're amazed because this kid, who not only gets us illegal movies, but also has an amazing, this is the first time we've seen the inside of the house, and it's an amazing layout. He's got pinball machines in the corner. He's got an arcade Pac-Man machine in the middle.
Oh, wow.
Like, and Martinsburg is not a place where you get stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a place to step up your living.
Right.
It's very much people from DC live there because it's cheaper. That kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, nothing's changed about it.
Mm-mm.
But, you know, so to see this on a ghetto street was just amazing. And then we look in his living room, and this man has a soda vending machine in his living room. So
I'm guessing this guy had to be rich.
No.
Oh.
His mom was a phlebotomist, and she worked nights, so she never got to spend her money, you know,
oh, wow,
the way she wanted to. So when she finally got a job that helped her pay, they just kind of had a good time.
Oh, wow.
He never came to school, or we go over to his house and he had something like shockingly new.
Hmm.
You know, it was always, you know, I got this, I got that, but it was more of like, I've got the new game for the system versus I got a whole new system, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
It was always medium kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So not necessarily rich, but way better than what I was living in. And I don't mean that as an affront to my mother. I love my mother. We had a very nice house. But we also had a spending problem because I had all my friends all the time coming over. She was spending like $500 a week in grocery bills because I couldn't keep my friends out of my house. So it was a different experience to walk in and see all this stuff. And I never felt envious. You know, I was grateful to be his friend because now I get to have all this stuff. And what's great is when he would get grounded, I got his Xbox.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like he would get grounded. He knew I didn't have anything to, you know, play anything on, or, you know, I had PlayStation 2, but he had an Xbox 360. So this was, you know, how the graphics are with that one. You know,
right.
So I got this Xbox 360, and it was fully loaded with Netflix, anything I wanted to watch.
Oh, wow.
Our friend Mike got a terabyte card thing and loaded it up with a whole bunch of movies in case Netflix didn't have anything. And so when he got grounded, I was a king.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I would always be sad that, oh, man, we can't hang out. But at the same time, it's like, but your Xbox is now mine.
Right.
And that was always a nice feeling. If he ever listens to this, he'll be like, that son of a bitch.
Right. He's like, I cannot believe he told this story on my podcast, on your podcast.
So we're going crazy. We're drinking the drinks. And then we hear movement upstairs. Now, Brad's not done messing with this thing. He's not even a little bit done. And so, to watch him hear the steps upstairs, and then to see the panic in his eyes as he looked at everybody in the room, we all knew immediately, in his face, he was saying, I don't want my friends to see me die.
Oh, wow.
So, he's trying so hard to get this computer that he punched closed back together. And his mom hits the bottom step, looks in the alcove where they are working on the computer and goes, what the hell is that?
Oh, my God.
Oh, man, she was so mad. He explains to her that there was something wrong with the disk drive, so he was just taking it apart. He didn't explain that he was the one that caused the problem with the disk drive. He just said there was something wrong with the disk drive and taking it apart to see if there's something I can do to fix it. So that appeased her. She was like, all right, fine, but that's annoying to wake up to first thing is to see all this crap all over my living room.
Right.
So she then proceeds to go into the bathroom, come out. None of us have said hi to her because we've never met this woman, and the first thing that she did when we did meet her was yell at her son, which put us all in a mood of, we best not talk.
Right.
So we just, stayed quiet and watched, and then she goes over to the vending machine and pushes the Pepsi button. Nothing comes out. She opens the vending machine and sees that my friend William has had the last Pepsi. Now, she doesn't know William has the last Pepsi. All she does is scream out, "Who the fuck drank all my Pepsi?"
Oh my God, I would have been mad as hell.
She sure was. And so we're all just sitting there like, what do we do, Brown? And Brown just is like, I don't know, man, I don't know. We all wanted to leave. Like, we were like, Brown, this seems like it's a family matter. We should probably head out.
Right.
But we stayed because, again, we were also paralyzed with, if we move, she's going to blame one of us. And we're all going to die. So,
oh my God. Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, it was the T-Rex can't see us if we don't move mentality.
Right.
So we we waited and waited and waited, and Brown finally got his mom to calm down. She left, and he came in and said, "Not one of you could tell her that you drank the Pepsi." And Will looked up and said, "I didn't want her to yell at me like she did you." Because she had also, one of us had stuffed a can in the couch.
Oh no.
Yeah, like a miscreant.
Oh wow.
That was an interesting experience, but it also started us going over to Brown's house for pizza and watch and stuff, because that was just an unforgettable, moment for us. We had never really, my friends had heard my mom yell at us, but she's a lot more sarcastic and didn't use such language.
Right.
She didn't curse at her child. Whereas Brown's mom was like, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 fucking times.
Right.
So we were just flabbergasted. But every time we head over to Brown's house, it never failed. One of us, either me, Jordan, Will, our buddy Storm, one of us would look at him and say, "Hey, is your mom home?" And he'd say, "Yeah." "Does she know we're coming?" "No, but she kind of figures that, that's what's going to happen." "Is she in a bad mood?" Because even if she is there for just 30 minutes, those 30 minutes are awkward as crap. But it just started to change a tradition of us being like, "Is your mom home?" That was just the routine. And then, early in the morning when it was time to go to school, we'd meet up at Brown's house and walk up to the school. It was just... it was, honestly, it's fun to look back on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to this is an overall story. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of linkage. So, around the time that we were getting ready to graduate, we decided to come up with a YouTube show called You Wouldn't. But we wanted to work some stuff out first.
Right.
One of the things we wanted to work out was, and this was back when YouTube didn't have like ads,
Right.
You weren't getting famous off of YouTube.
Right.
But you could just do something fun on YouTube. It wasn't like, how they have YouTubers now. That wasn't a thing when I was a child. It was just YouTube.
Right.
So we're getting stuff ready because we're going to get this show going. And some of the videos, I don't know if they're still up because it's been so long, but some of the videos were like just real stupid things.
Yeah.
One of them was me eating grub. One of them was my friend Storm and Brown jumping from one train car to another. And then there were the ultra stupid ones where I had my friend Will hit me with his car.
I would have been mad.
Oh, no, it was on purpose. We were purposely doing that. I would ride around on the roof of his car all the time through Jordan's neighborhood, grabbing the doors and windows and just hanging on for dear life. And that boy would try and throw me.
Right.
But, so, normal dumb kid stuff. But that's, that's how we bonded. But there was one, we were planning out a skit, but we wanted to see what the reaction would be.
Right.
Which, I'm glad we did that, because if we hadn't have done that, we probably would have gotten in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Because we almost did. So we got a friend of ours. His name was James Phelps. We got him and took him into the back of the car, and we had Brown in the front seat, and we had Brown run into the mall at the JCPenney side.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs in screaming, "Help, help, help, help." Then me and James Phelps ran into the JCPenney's and dragged him out, knocking coats and everything over. Like, we were making it look real. Now, when I say this was not planned, but I dragged him by the hair while James grabbed him because Brown had a long hair, and I figured if we wanted this to look real, to freak these people out.
Right.
So we did that, and then we threw him in the back of Will's white Cavalier. I think it was a Cavalier. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But we threw him in the trunk. And one of the employees came out and said, "Is this real?" Well, we didn't answer her. We just took off.
Oh, no.
As we're at a stoplight trying to get away from the situation, because we know what we've just done. We're not real dumb. We know what we've just done.
It's just comedy.
Look like we've done. But as we're sitting at the stoplight, we hear,
"Oh, no."
A troop of cops are going towards the mall, and we decided to tempt fate. After the last one left, we popped the trunk so that Brown could flip the truck off behind us and then go back down. And we did that a couple of times before the light turned green. So these are the friends that I involved myself with, where we didn't cause any criminal activity. We didn't hurt anybody.
Right.
We were just stupid.
Oh, yeah.
They could have gotten hurt. Could have been seen as criminals.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that we didn't get caught is monumentous.
Right.
To the fact that we don't do criminal activity.
Right.
So, but this is, I tell you all that just so you can get an idea of the bond that formed in this group.
See, I had some friends. Well, I haven't spoken to them in a while, but when I was a teenager, I had a lot of friends that we used to do a lot of crazy things and try so hard not to get thrown in jail, and we'd just be like, "Oh God, please don't,"
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it sound dumb, because like I said, I have some friends, but they're not really quality type friends. But they're one of those people who rather just, get in trouble with the law, but that's just a teenager, thing.
Yeah.
But, as you get older, you start looking back at all the crazy stuff that you used to do, and hey, it is what it is,
I miss it, to be honest. I'm a father of 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my 30s. I miss being able to go out with my friends and do dumb stuff.
Right.
It was a sense of, and it would be ridiculous. I'm married, so I obviously can't, and I know that I can't. I don't want anybody to hear this and be like, "Oh, he doesn't wish to have responsibilities." But
we all don't, but we have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, I'm also happy with the responsibilities.
Right.
But if I didn't have the responsibilities I have, I wouldn't have my children, and I wouldn't have my wife. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I take care of them and have to take care of them.
Right.
It's not a burden. It is financially, but in terms of being a dad and a husband, it's everything I wanted. But I do miss being able to go out and do really stupid shit just because it popped into my brain. And I miss being able to do it with these guys.
Right.
So as time went on, I'm living in Brown's old house, and Brown's coming home from college at this point, you know, living periodically in the house with us. And over the time, we started building a comic collection. We would go out on weekends, all of us, and go find a comic shop and you know, go buy some comics. And by the end of my stay at the house, we had a good 500 issues of comics.
Oh, wow.
And I think Brown still has the majority of them. We kept them in a locker. But, and so this helped us develop a love for each other through comics, because we would share what we enjoyed. Brown was really into Spawn comics. I was always a Batman fan. I'm still a Batman fan. Jordan bounced around a lot. He wasn't firm on I need this comic. He just liked to read comics. So he didn't have like a specific one. We always joked that his was Superman because Superman's super naive, and at the time Jordan was super naive, but we all loved him for it. Like, it was a great thing. He wasn't dumb by any means. He just preferred to trust his heart. He has since taken some of that out, but he still is pretty much the same person when it comes to that. He actually just finished, or he just released a book not too long ago, a Christmas horror story book. Called, I think it's called Merry Christmas, Daddy's Dead. But it's a really good book. But back in 2017, he approached me because at this time, you know, I had my first kid. I wasn't living with them anymore. Some stuff had happened with the house that caused my relationship with Brown to deteriorate, which is one of my biggest regrets. But, you know, so we weren't hanging out as much anymore, and I wasn't doing too well. I was living with Jordan's sister, actually, not in a relationship or anything. Her boyfriend lived there too. I just was down on my luck and needed a place to stay, and they were kind enough to open their home. But at that point, Jordan came and said, "Hey, I want to do something together, and tell me what you think." And he told me about this idea of us getting together and talking comics. He said, "You know, I want to do a podcast about comics." And so we saw that as an opportunity to see each other and hang out with an actual excuse rather than we're just going to go around and have fun. So that started the podcast, Those Not So Super Dudes, which is currently on the Hub City Network, and is doing pretty well in the Hagerstown area. But it's, you know, it's doing really well. But that happened because this bond that I had formed with Jordan and Brown and Will and all them over this one topic. And then through a series of unfortunate circumstances, well, unfortunate and fortunate, because I moved where I moved out of Martinsburg because I found the woman that I loved. So I moved up here. And I didn't move up here knowing that I was going to get married. I didn't move up here knowing that it was going to work out. I moved up here because she lived so far away, and I knew it was something special that I should probably pursue. So then, as time goes on, I get to know her kids, and I love her children. They're part of the 4 that I raised. But when I came into their life, the oldest one was 5, and the youngest one was 3, and their dad had been out of their life for about 2 years. And now I've been in their life a lot longer than what their dad has. So I think I'm well within my rights to claim them as mine.
Right.
So if anyone was like, oh, they're just stepchildren, they're certainly not. I feel the same emotions that I have, the same protectiveness that I have. We actually have someone in our town whose son did some uncool things to his sister, and the mother of the children was trying to get us to take one of the kids, and we were like, no, man, we can't afford it, and we know what happened in your house, and we have a baby. That's just not happening. Sorry, and the child that you wanted us to take, I enjoyed. He's not a bad kid, but that kind of abuse, it's a cycle, and I'm not. It might make me a bad person, but I'm not willing to,
right,
endanger my baby on the off chance that he will do something,
right.
Whether because it was an older brother and a 7-year-old sister, and the youngest brother had been. That's who the mother wanted us to take, was the younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
But he had taken part at some point. Just it was just the once.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really all I need is just the once. That's one too many times, in my opinion.
Right.
So, we unfortunately, we've had to distance ourselves. The boy, the youngest son, was, or is, I guess, my oldest son's best friend. So it's a weird circumstance.
Right.
But I say all that so that you know, and your listeners know, that I'm very conscientious about my children, regardless of whether or not I created them or not.
Right.
But so I came up here and I asked my wife to marry me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I did, she had to pick out a ring because she was worried about my style choices.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was fair because I was also conscientious about pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not real pricey, you can't get, a sizable ring. I wasn't trying to get her, oh, look at the diamond under the microscope kind of ring. But she knew her sense more. She wasn't a giant fan of diamonds, but she understood what the ring was for, so she, bowed to the diamonds. And she picked out a ring. And I told her, well, I'm not going to give it to you until I propose. She said, propose right now so I can have it. And I was like, no.
Just wait. Be patient.
Yeah, I wanted her very much to wait, but she was so excited.
But she wanted you to marry her, right now.
She just wanted to be engaged to me. We hadn't gotten to we hadn't figured out how long the engagement would be.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew that we wanted people to know that this was a serious relationship, that it wasn't something that it's going to sound like a lot of people were against it, but they weren't. Her parents were, but that is what it is. But we wanted to show people that it wasn't a joke. The relationship wasn't going away.
Right.
So we did that, and she pestered me the entire way home from the ring shop. And her children are in the back. She pestered me the entire way. Just give it to me now. Just give it to me now. You already know I'm going to say yes. Just give it to me.
Oh my God.
And I had this whole, I wanted to have this whole thing planned. You know how you always want to be romantic, you want to get the lighting
just kind of plan it out before, right.
You want romance, but she
right.
My wife doesn't give one squat about romance. Not one. I have cleaned our entire room, lit candles everywhere to try and get some nookie, and my wife comes in and says it's a fire hazard. She does not care about romance.
Wow.
Yeah, she's very,
like, even if you was to put, like, rose petals on the floor just to make it a trail just to go to a bathtub or something, but...
No, it would be lost on her. And she would know that it was supposed to be romantic.
Right.
But she doesn't have it in her.
Mm-mm.
Like, she's more of a... Honestly, she's a dude. I firmly believe that had she been a man, she would have fit every stereotype a man has.
Right.
So, which is fine because I'm not the most masculine, so it works out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where you're just like, I slaved over this to try and, yeah, I was expecting a reward afterwards, but look how pretty.
Right.
But it is what it is. So she's not the most romantic. So I get out of our Explorer, our Ford Explorer, or expedition. That's what it was. It was an expedition. And as I'm going to close the door, because I've got to propose, she won't just let it go, and I'm tired of hearing it, which is not great for proposal stories, but
right.
So I'm getting out of the car, and I'm like, all right, I'll go. And I go, and I shut the door, and then behind me I hear, ow, 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 ow. And I turn around, and her youngest son's hand is stuck in the door because I have just shut him in.
Oh, no.
So I take him out. I look at his hand. It's not bleeding. It's a little red, but it's okay. He's not really crying.
Yeah, it was just a mistake. It was an accident.
Yeah. I said, are you okay? He said, yeah. And so then I go to the mother's side. I open the door. We have a muddy driveway because it's just rained, and up here, the only place that's paved is the normal road. I get down in my new jeans in one knee, place it directly in a mud puddle, pull the rain out, and ask her to marry me.
Oh.
Her instant answer is, are you going to come in the house with your muddy jeans on?
Really?
And I said, no, I'll take them off on the porch. Do you think you want to marry me? And she said, oh, yeah, I always wanted to do that. Don't come in with mud. Romance is lost on her.
It's like she just doesn't care about what romance is, you know?
She doesn't. She doesn't have use for it. She likes sweet things. Like, her dog died, and so she was having a really hard time with it because he was her boyfriend. There's no other way to put it.
Right.
He was her boyfriend. So when he died, it was really hard on her. And he'd been the dog since the boys had been born. His name was Shane, and he was a really good boy. I mean, he was mean to other people, but he was really good to us. And so he died, and I got her this necklace that says, when you put it on some light or something, it says, I love you in 100 different languages. She loved that. She loves sweet things. But when it comes to trying to romance her, she has no use for it. Because she feels that if you're going to spend this time and all this energy to trying to get into my pants, why don't you just ask me? We're married.
Right.
So, or why don't you just ask me? We live together. You know, that kind of thing. So she's very much a dude in that regard. I want everybody to know she does love me. Like, she shows me all the time that she loves me. There was a moment where my biological son, before my baby was born, was supposed to come live with. Well, wasn't even supposed to. We didn't know anything about it until a week before school started. That his mother and her boyfriend couldn't handle him anymore, and that he quote unquote wanted to live with us. He didn't. He wasn't even consulted. They just dropped him off 2 days before school started. And I had to, at the open house, enroll him really quick. But before that, I had said, no, he can't come up here because right before Julia got pregnant, that's my wife, by the way, right before Julia got pregnant, we suffered a miscarriage. And and that was a really hard time for us. It was hard for us to get through. Not so much, I felt it because my chance to be a father with her had been taken away, but she felt it a lot more than I did. So there was the question, and I needed to have it answered on whether or not she wanted to go on her birth control again, or if she wanted to try again, because that was kind of she wanted to have a baby before. I needed to know, is your mind still set on having a baby, or do we need to take precautions against that?
Right.
And eventually she said, I want to have a baby. I've made my mind up. We're going to have a baby. So we were already dealing with trying to reconcile the fact that we had lost a baby and now we are growing another one. And it was early stages, so it was high anxiety.
Oh.
So I had originally said no because I didn't want my wife to have to deal with a whole other child that isn't hers.
Right.
In the middle of her hormonal crazy fest that she would go through. Every woman knows that there is a hormone moment where they forget that they're married to the person they're talking to, and start thinking that they're an enemy. It happens every time.
It's a girl thing, yeah. It's a woman
definitely.
thing.
Guys don't go through that, but girls do. So I was trying to mitigate the circumstances because she was already concerned about stress killing the baby that she was growing right in her stomach at that time. So when I told them no, I blamed it on our landlords, max capacity and whatnot, because I also don't want to seem like a jerk telling my son, no, you can't live with me.
Right.
But I obviously, I couldn't afford it. I was stressed out enough because we're getting a baby, and she was stressed out, and so I told her that I said no. And she immediately texted he's not a stepdad, he texted the mom's boyfriend.
Oh.
And said, don't listen to him. We'll take him. Bring him up. We'll take care of him. So she brought my son to me during a time when she was having a terrible time. And yeah, she did it so that I wouldn't feel any kind of resentment towards the family, but she still did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She didn't have to. And while I don't appreciate the angle of I didn't want you to resent us if you couldn't be with your son, I also appreciate the fact that she did it knowing that there was a desire for me to have my child.
Right.
So, it was one of those things where I understood perfectly what she was saying. And, and he lived with us for 2 years, and then come and find out, he didn't even know why he was living with us. He's living with us for 2 years, and he's acting out every day. Like, at one point, he flipped a desk at school. And so, we were concerned.
Right.
To say the least. And he eventually, I said, he eventually, he tried to shove my 1-year-old's face into sand. And I told him, bud, that's a no-go. That was...
It's like he's acting out.
He had to go back to his mom's because he was, if he had hurt that 1-year-old, Julia wouldn't stop.
Right.
You know what I mean? I love my wife, but that's her baby, and he wasn't anything to her until we were married anyway. You know, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So, I sat him down in his room and said, listen, you're going to have to go back and live with your mom, but I need to know, why did you act like this? I didn't raise you to act this way, and I've never known you to act this way, but for 2 years, you've done just weird things And
Right.
he said, I don't even know why I came to live here. He had no clue. He didn't want to live with us. They lied to us. He didn't have any kind of clue why he wanted to, or why he was living with us at all. He didn't know why he wasn't with his mother, any of that.
Wow.
And that was a position that they put us in. And, I mean, I love my son, but that's done some serious harm.
Right.
Because, one, after me and Julia got married, his mother didn't let me see him. And that was years. And then, all of a sudden, he's living with me. He's only lived with his mom for about 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He is 8. 1 year he lived with my mom. 1 year, or for his first 2 years, I lived with his mother, but I was the one at home and she was always gone. You know? So
yeah.
He hasn't had a fair shake in life, which rarely ever happens to anybody, but he's my son, and so I was trying to do everything I could to mitigate the damage that had been done in his life, and it just feels like there's no way to mitigate it, you know?
Right.
But anyway, I say all that to let you know what kind of partner I have.
Right.
She's not super romantic. She likes sweet things. And even if it's against her wishes, she'll go against them to give me something that I want. That's a strong partner.
Right.
So we were having some issues because I was spending a lot of time doing those Not So Super Dudes and not spending enough time really doing anything with her. You know, I wasn't we weren't going on dates anymore because, you know, we were living in a poor area. We're 45 minutes away from everything. There is no option for dating.
Right.
So, you know, she was like, I'm tired of you always doing stuff with your friends on the phone, but we don't ever actually get any time to do anything. And I said, well, do you want to come on the podcast? And she said, no, I don't like superhero stuff. I just want you to find a way to include me in something.
Right.
And that's not a big ask. And if anybody out there is married to someone and you hear your partner say, I need you to include me in something.
Right.
Find something.
Right.
Create something. My wife and I created Ghosted in West Virginia, which is a podcast in which we tell, you know, supposedly true ghost stories.
Right.
Our family shows up on the podcast. We don't edit it. It's very real. If our children come in our room during an episode, you just heard our children come in during an episode. You know, that's how we do it, and it's hardly ever serious. But I created that because I knew we both enjoyed ghosts.
Right.
And she was begging me to give her the same kind of attention I was giving my friends.
Right.
My wife shouldn't have to beg me for that.
Mm-mm.
So we created this podcast, and it's been going real good. It's going on 2 years now. And we have, you know, we're international listeners, and we're doing decent numbers for 2 years. But there's a point where I don't care what we talk about. I'm doing something with my wife.
Right.
You know, we could be talking about nail polish on the podcast, and the fact that I'm talking about nail polish with my wife makes the project so much more special. Now, I love those Not So Super Dudes. I love doing those Not So Super Dudes.
Right.
You know, whenever we get together and talk nerd shit, it is phenomenal. But doing a project with my wife that I care deeply about, that I can promote and I can push on my own and talk to her about doing stuff, that there's a level of freedom with that I didn't even know could exist in a marriage.
Right. It's like,
you know,
it's like a commitment kind of way.
It's like I'm sorry, what was that?
Like kind of like a commitment. Kind of like a commitment or promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we were to divorce, there is no Ghosted in West Virginia. Neither one of us is going to continue the show.
Exactly.
And I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. And I know this is weird or really sappy to say, but I honestly couldn't imagine even trying to live if I were to get divorced. And I don't mean like suicide or anything.
Right.
I just mean having the motivation to do anything if I didn't have my wife.
Yeah, I actually believe you.
I so much of my life has gotten better because of the fact that I've tried to improve myself, and she's never asked me to. That's also a very important distinction. You find you a person, and I don't care what kind of person. You find you a person that makes you, without telling you, but makes you want to be better, and you found the right kind of person.
Right.
So I found someone that without telling me what bothered her, she just showed me what kind of person she wanted to have.
Right.
And she didn't ask me to change. I'm still very much a child. She would much rather me act like an adult all the time, but it's just not in me.
Right. Sometimes you just want to act like a kid, but...
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, I understand that adults nowadays want to be treated like adults, but I'm not trying to make this sound dumb, but sometimes there are adults out there who want to act like a child.
Yeah, but I don't mean in like the creepy way where
right.
I'm still putting on diapers and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm still very much an adult man. I just enjoy the odd occurrence every now and then of frivolity.
Exactly.
I am a giant Star Wars nerd, like to the point where I've taught my 1-year-old who Darth Vader is, and he breathes just like Darth Vader.
Oh my God.
But I bought one of those cool battle-ready lightsabers, when you put the blade in and it's metal handle and all that. It looks like a real lightsaber.
Right.
And I bought Sith cloak and Sith robes and all that, to put on for Halloween. I did that for Halloween.
Right.
At least that's when I told my wife. That's my birthday, so I just kind of skipped it in with, it could be my Halloween costume. When
right.
I just wanted to be a Jedi Sith character. But that's neither here nor there. I created a game with my kids called Find the Last Sith, in which it's dark. I go out in my robes with my lightsaber and I hide.
Right.
They come out and I scare them by turning on my lightsaber and jumping out and just start whacking them with the lightsaber. Just fun.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff fills me with joy and helps me in my family unit.
Right.
Because you're not going to just come in to a family that hasn't. Because of the fact that I'm a stepdad, I can't just rest on my laurels. I can't just be, I helped create you, you have to listen to me. No, I have to have a way different relationship with these children than normal dads have to have.
Right.
Because my authority is constantly tested, even at this age.
Exactly.
Their mom is not a disciplinarian. She'll tell you straight up, they don't listen to her because she's not the disciplinarian. I am. Now, I want everybody to know I don't hit my children.
Yeah.
I didn't create them. I'm not responsible for them in that capacity. I don't dish out corporal punishment. But I do yell, and I do timeouts, and I do pick them up and put them in places.
Oh, right.
I'm not a super gentle dad either. I'm not one of those, come on, let's find a different way. No, you're going to do it, or I'm going to make you do it. Like that.
Right.
That's the kind of dad I am. So, they have a healthy respect for me that, yes, they know I love them, but they also know that a little bit of fear with me goes a long way.
Right.
And I tell my wife all the time, you have to understand that the children don't listen to you because they love you, but they aren't scared of you in any capacity.
Right.
Like, there's nothing you could say or do to them
It's like the kids are like teasing the parents by making them think like, okay, it's okay, but it's not really okay.
Yeah, but it always happens to the mom.
Right.
Like, no child on the face of the planet has a dad is like, oh, I'm gonna go up here and mouth off to my father, because they know they'll catch hands.
Right.
Because they know the mentality of a man. My wife, growing up, she didn't get spanked. She didn't get grounded. She got yelled at, but that was it.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I love the fact that when we go up to your friend's camping ground for that party, and we're all sitting around campfire talking about the worst whoopings we got, and you're over there going, yep. I said, girl, you never got hit.
Right.
You can't be agreeing to something that didn't happen.
Right.
And so she very much thought, I can raise my children that way, never having to do anything more than yell. And she quickly found out that that's not how boys work.
Right.
We need that constant thumping reminder. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't.
But instead, we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, like my son climbed up a rock wall at a playground, pulled his pants down, and peed off of it.
Oh no!
Now, he's 8, so it wasn't like a predatory type peeing.
No.
He was just doing something real weird.
Right.
So, I understand that dads have that biological dads have that innate, you're going to listen to me because I'm your dad, but I don't with these children.
Right.
They love me, but they also need a healthy dose of, I should fear this man.
Right.
Because the minute they don't respect their mother, that's where I'm supposed to come in. I'm a step up parent. I'm not a take charge parent.
Right.
That's her job. She tells them what to do, and I step up the command.
Right.
So when they start saying, I'm not going to do that, boy, what'd you say? Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah. It's like it's like a complete opposite of what the parent are going to say, and the kids are going to do it anyway.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you asked me to tell a story, and I told a very long series of stories that connect to each other. But I gotta say, this is brilliant, because I hadn't really looked back on my life from the point that I started with you, and really looked at how blessed I've actually been. I've been going through some real struggles here recently, and
see, with me,
to see the sunshine when there's a whole bunch of clouds.
Right. See, with me, like, I struggle, well, even though I struggle with, like, bipolar, anger issues, mixed emotions and stuff, I have to talk to my psychologist, like, every 3 months and just tell him what's going on. And then I tell him, like, I have to tell him my crazy psychological problems.
Well, I mean, we all got them.
Right.
I'm certainly no picnic, and my wife, I mean, you heard how she deals with romance.
Right.
See how she deals with loss. It's just, we're hardwired in a way from our environment and experiences to certain psychological triggers. We're gonna react to certain things from our past a different way. It's just like when I first started dating Julia, I would go through her phone, not because Julia was ever unfaithful or untrustworthy, but because my relationship before her was unfaithful and untrustworthy. And that kind of thing leaves a scar. And if that's just a temporary relationship leaving a scar, imagine what a permanent fixture in your life is going to leave.
Right.
So I think anybody claiming to be perfectly healthy in their head is either lying or completely unaware.
Right.
You don't just, you can have sad days, but when it feels like you have no end in sight for what you're going through, that's a little bit of depression.
Right.
That's something you got to get checked out, because having no hope is a terrible, terrible weight on
Exactly.
And before I talked to you, I was feeling a little bit like I had no hope. So I want to thank you.
Oh, no
for reminding
problem.
me about the bright spots in my life. Because
Oh,
without those bright spots, I'd have no evidence of future light coming through.
right.
But that's my story, and also a shameless plug for my 2 podcasts.
Oh, well, thank you so much for actually being on my podcast. I really enjoyed your story.
Thank you. I enjoyed telling it.
And I hope you have the rest of the great day. And maybe next time, if you ever get on, maybe we could talk again.
Yeah, I would love to.
All right, well, talk to you later.
See you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
I see how this guy's understanding. I mean, there's a lot that you can do as like teenagers, and then as you're an adult, you're gonna be doing like things that you're not supposed to be doing, and especially like when you have kids, you have to be aware about certain things. Like with me and my nephew, even though he's 3 years old, he's in that whole learning stage, and we're still have to tell him things that's not okay and things that are okay. See, I have this thing, like a lot of people will say, like, well, we can't waste food, and that, I have to tell my nephew this, but, I understand that he's 3 years old, and I understand he gets distracted a lot because, he's a kid. But you have to actually tell him that we can't waste food. And then sometimes we have to tell him, for example, like if we want him to clean up his room, he will just sit there and watch TV. And I remember this last time I told him, I said, if you don't clean up your room, I was going to turn the TV off. And I didn't think it was going to work. And I turned off his TV, and he just started cleaning up his room. And I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a bad thing, but and I didn't know it was going to work, but hey, sometimes parents got to figure things out, to get their kids to like listen and, obey the parents. But hey, I mean, there's a lot that goes around in the world, especially like with me, like when I was a teenager, I used to do a lot of bad things. I mean, like going out to like college party at a very young age, or like stealing music and movies off the internet, selling bootlegs. I mean, and then there's a lot that involves like, let's say, like getting arrested as teenagers, and they don't realize what the consequences are. I mean, I get that. And even though I'm not really a parent, I still think of my little nephew as a child, even though he doesn't really live with me. Every once in a while, he'll come stay the night with me and my mom. Well, and my stepdad, of course. But he is just one of those active kids who just want to go out and do, weird, kid things. I mean, it's normal. But with Cameron, he's still at that learning age. So when he gets to, let's say, a certain age, that's when he'll start noticing that, he's not in this terrible twos or terrible threes or, stuff like that. But anyway, I really like this guy's story. I didn't realize I was talking to this guy for an hour, but thing is, I think, if you think about hearing stories like this, it might remind you from the things that we might have done from the past, things that we might have, that is completely stupid and weird, but hey, like, that's just the world we live in. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's stupid. I'm not trying to call you guys dumb and weird. I mean, hey, it's just things that we do around the world, and you just gotta let it go and just kind of, sometimes you just gotta face the music and deal with the consequences, and that's all I could say. Anyway, if you guys actually like to be on my podcast, please text 478-901-4445. That's 478-901-4445. And I will talk to you guys next week.